רגע, עכשיו שינו.
Okay, now can you try again, Rav Moise?
הוא במיוט,
כולם במיוט.
ותבקש ממנו שיצא ממיוט.
Rav Moise, if you can undo your mute, I think.
Nice.
תדבר איתו עכשיו.
One more time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, now we can. Wonderful, thank you. We will let you know a couple of minutes before. You wanted us to let you know before.
Correct.
Yes?
Yeah, you're gonna let me know when to come on.
Sure, we'll let you know a few minutes before. Thank you.
שיענה
No problem.
זה מספר לא מזוהה, תגיד לו שזה מתקשר.
Noah will be calling you and letting you know when to get on.
Okay, so you think it'll be like in half an hour or so?
A little less. It will probably be, if you start at about 8:30, it should be somewhere around 8:40, 8:45.
Okay, fine.
הרבה אנשים כבר בפנים, אז נראה לי...
Okay.
Okay.
מרק ומייקל גם כן צריכים לעשות בדיקת שמה.
אוקיי, אז איפה מרק ואיפה... תבקש מהם לצאת.
Mark and Michael, if you could do a sound check with us.
שיצאו ממיוט.
Just get out of mute one more time.
היי,
יופי. שומעים
זה
אותך?
בסדר?
כן.
בסדר גמור, thank you.
תודה רבה.
Hello, friends.
Yes, good to hear your voice.
You too.
Thank you. עכשיו, כשהם מדברים, אנחנו עומדים.
כן.
I'm going to say hello, shalom. It's Dina abroad in New York.
Shalom, shalom. I understand there was a move from the world of fashion to the world of education.
Never fashion. I'm the least fashionable, but visual arts.
Visual art.
And it's both still.
It's both. Okay. That's loud.
Hi, Shavua Tov. It's Lori Coleman, spot 49 from San Francisco.
Shalom, shalom.
It's Shula. Happy Tu B'Shvat, spot 61. Also San Francisco.
לא, אתה לא צריך לראות את עצמך, אנחנו רואים אותך. אתה רואה רק את כולם, סבבה? ואתה מסתכל פה.
Hi, Gabriela, former past Bachirut. Nice to see you, everyone.
Good evening to everyone and happy Tu B'Shvat. It is started here in Israel and it will soon start in other places too. We're here at Livnot and Sfat. My name is Micha, Yerachat, and Salah. We're all here to be with you on our annual Tu B'Shvat Seder via Zoom. And we wish it could be more personal, but for that, you'll have to come all the way to Sfat again. We're waiting for it. Of course, it's freezing outside, but it's freezing where you are probably anyway. And we, this year, are going to be marking the subject of Jewish unity as part of our Tu B'Shvat Seder. Aaron Botzer wished to be here with us. Unfortunately, his brother is very sick and he's with him now.
Michael, I'll just say hi. I can't participate for I have certain circumstances, but I'm going to be on the call, so please speak in my voice. However, okay, bye. I'm here, but not here.
Aaron is here and not here, in his own words. And we wish you well, Aaron, you and your brother. His brother's name is Levi HaKohen Ben Rivka, and we wish you all well. Tu B'Shvat is in itself a celebration of unity. First of all, it's a time when we take fruit that we eat throughout the year and bring it all together and make a Seder out of it. It was something that was a Jewish startup here 500 years ago by the Kabbalists of Tzfat, and we're simply continuing that tradition. But also, we found at Livnot that Tu B'Shvat is a wonderful way for people to connect to the Jewish side of nature. And it was always the least threatening of all the Jewish holidays. It didn't infringe on anybody's lifestyle. And it was something that we did in almost every program in recent years, even if it wasn't Tu B'Shvat, because it was something that people could take back with them. And before we introduce our guests, I just wanted to quote the sages of the Talmud who compared the Jewish people to one of the fruits that we eat on Tu B'Shvat, and I'm specifically talking about walnuts. I've made a little pile of walnuts here just for you to see, because the sages said that Jews are like walnuts. Now, I know that sounds very strange, but they gave an example. They said, and here I'm going to demonstrate, that when you have a pile of walnuts and you pull one of them out like this, the whole pile falls down. And this, they said, is like the Jewish people. Because if one Jewish person is suffering or ailing, the rest of the Jewish people will be able to feel that pain and empathize. That's a wonderful simile, and you can prove it just by making a pile of nuts and pulling one out. And the question is this really happening? Do we really feel the pain of our fellow Jews? And perhaps it's a call for us to think about it and shoot for it and perhaps educate about Jewish unity, because it's not something that happens on its own. It's something that you have to learn about. It's something that you have to teach children, students, and it's something that perhaps should be up on a high part of the Jewish priority list. So with that, I'd like to introduce the first of our speakers. We tried to get very diverse speakers. Many were sick with COVID. And so we're also going to have a musical interlude, but we are very thankful for those who have joined us today. And I'd like to start with Rabbi Michael Bernstein. And here's a short bio. Rabbi Michael Bernstein is the spiritual leader of Gesher LeTorah congregation in Alpharetta, Georgia. He was ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary in 1999 and served congregations in Massachusetts and Philadelphia before coming to Atlanta with his wife Tracy and their 3 children, Ayelet, Yaron, and Liana. Great names. He was inducted to the Martin Luther King Board of Preachers at Morehouse College in April 2015, honored by Sojourn in 2016 for his advocacy for the LGBTQ community. Rabbi Bernstein is also a chaplain for the Johns Creek Police Department, as well as for Milton Fire and Public Safety. And to quote Rabbi Michael, it all began at Livnot during T36, way back when. Rabbi Michael, thank you for joining us. B'vakasha.
Well, it's such a pleasure. And I do, it makes me tired just listening to that bio, but many of us are doing so many things. I did want to take one moment, since I'm the first speaker, to think about the ordeal that took place in outside of Dallas yesterday, when one of our colleagues, Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker, and I believe it was 3 of his congregants were held at gunpoint through Shabbat into the night before they were incredibly rescued by a SWAT team there, an FBI hostage rescue. It hasn't unfolded yet, this story, but I'm sure that it will only go deeper and deeper. If today's theme is Jewish unity, then this is the worst way in which we find ourselves reminded of Jewish unity when something like this happens and people around the world are focused. And thank God it was a successful rescue, but still, the terrible aftermath is on so many people's minds, and I just want to send my heart's prayer to Rabbi Citron Walker and his community, to his wife Adina and their family as they recover, please God, from this ordeal, and for all of us. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak now, and this Tu B'Shvat Seder, as Michael said, Tu B'Shvat is on one hand, such an easy holiday because everyone loves nature, or pretends that they do or don't. We all have nature, and fruit is such a basic idea. And yet, like many Jewish holidays, it goes very deep as well. And one of the things that I thought of in speaking about Tu B'Shvat is that fruit really is part of the vocabulary of human experience, right from the garden. But even before the Garden of Eden, there is a midrash that looks at the idea that when fruit was first to be created by the earth, God says, Eitz pri oseh pri, a fruit tree that makes fruit. And if you look very carefully, you see that when the earth complies, it's with an Eitz oseh pri, a tree that makes fruit. And the midrash says that the fruit and the tree were supposed to taste the same. And that the earth did not do that for reasons that are expounded on later and different ideas. But at that very moment was the first moment that something started to break in the plan as understood, that would eventually, in the garden, the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, the tree of life, would bring a much more famous moment of breakage. Rav Kook looks at this idea that the fruit of the tree should taste like the tree, but doesn't, as this beautiful way of thinking about how the world that we have, one of its characteristics is that the tree can't be eaten. The whole experience of getting to the fruit that we enjoy, that we bless, that we have all of the feelings around of satisfaction, we have to go through the hard bark of the tree. We have to endure it. And I think that there's something very powerful about this because, as we are about to celebrate Tu B'Shvat, it takes a while to get there. You can't just pluck fruit, or eat the branch. It's an image that really, I think, makes us think about how hard the world can be, how we break our teeth on it. I actually, because Tu B'Shvat often, as it does this weekend, falls on the same day as Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday, it really, to me, is exactly that message. One of the quotes that is often quoted in the name of Dr. King, he did quote it in the name of a different source, that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It's a very inspiring idea, but it also shows us that what happens with the moral arc of the universe is that it's inedible, right? We can't just enjoy this world. Hopefully we get some enjoyment out of the world, but it's not completely enjoyable. It's a world we have to work towards. And the fruit is justice. Literally, that is what it says in Proverbs in 11:30, Prit Tzedek Eitz Chaim, the fruit of justice. That is the tree of life. And I'll just say, in this moment, that when you put this beautiful image of Rav Kook together, what you get is something important. In the Jewish tradition, we don't just wait for the end of the earth to get to justice. We work to make the world sweet as the fruit of justice. It's not at the end of the branch, it's the purpose of the branch itself, to sweeten and sweeten and sweeten. And we learn a lot just from the Tu holiday, that fruit is a way of not only celebrating nature, but celebrating our nature, that we can work and work hard. Prit tzedek, eitz chaim, that the fruit of justice will lead to a tree of life, and the tree of life to the fruit of justice. So even though the world is hard to swallow, the work goes on, and I'm grateful for where my seeds were planted at Livnot Ulehibanot at the very beginning. So Chag Tu B'Shvat Sameach, and may we continue to work towards the sweetness of justice.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Michael. Beautiful words. Not everyone can quote the Tanakh and Rav Kook and Martin Luther King Jr. You did it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like now to introduce our next speaker, Rabbi Moïse Navon, who is an engineer by profession and a rabbi by passion, modeling himself on the principle of Torah Umada, Torah and science. Moïse received his degree in engineering from UCLA and his rabbinical ordination through the Merkaz Harav Yeshiva. Working at the intersection of Torah Umada, he is currently pursuing his PhD in the Department of Jewish Philosophy at Bar Ilan University, where his thesis seeks to apply Jewish philosophy to address the ethical questions arising in the field of artificial intelligence. In this vein, he's also teaching a course on ethics in big data and artificial intelligence at Ben Gurion University and Yeshiva University. So we're happy to welcome Rabbi Moïse Navon. Bevakasha.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Good, okay. So thanks for joining. Basically, I entitled my talk for this 5 minutes as Tu B'Shvat, the most important holiday of the year. And what I'd like to try to convince you of in these few minutes is that, in fact, this is the most important holiday of the entire year. The way we can begin to understand that is, where do we learn about this holiday? Is in the Mishnah that says that this is Rosh Hashanah La'ilan. It is the new year of the tree. Rav Tzadok Milublin notices something very interesting. He says it's the new year of the tree, not the new year of the trees. Even though we usually say Chag HaIlanot, there's a song, Chag HaIlanot, it's the festival of the trees. But Rav Tzadok Milublin says, no, the Mishnah is being very exacting, and it's saying something, it's trying to teach us something. This is the festival of the tree. What is the tree? He says, well, it's basically the tree of life that God planted in the Garden of Eden. But he says it's also that one singular tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So now he's told us that there are these two trees that are really one tree, that's really two aspects of two trees of one tree. What exactly does this mean? And these two trees, there's such a tension between them, and now he combines them. So really, this one tree that we're celebrating tonight or today is a tree that encapsulates basically the challenge of life. And to be able to try to understand that, we need to understand what exactly is this tree of knowledge of good and evil. So, and what was that fruit? What was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? This magic fruit that the snake said, when you eat it, you'll become like God. And so much so that this was true, that when they did eat it, so God said, yeah, they have become like us. They have become like us, knowing good and evil. They have to leave paradise. So if you look through the Tanakh, it doesn't say what fruit it is. The Gemara gives a number of options, but the fact of the matter is that the Tanakh left it open because it just doesn't matter what fruit it was. You see, the magic isn't in eating the fruit. The magic is in putting your hand out to take that fruit. You see, the minute that we decided to not listen to God, we became God. As Nietzsche said, God is dead. People don't actually take the time to read the next sentence in The Madman. The madman went around running saying, God is dead, and we have killed him. You see, the minute we decide what is good and evil, so we killed God. Because what is a God if he doesn't tell us what is right and what is wrong? There's no point. And so the minute we say that God doesn't tell us what's right and wrong, so we become God who is saying what is right and what is wrong. And that's basically the beginning and the end of history. We have decided that we're going to say what is right and wrong. And so now we're banished from that paradise that God created us to live in. And really the only way back is to put back that fruit. We've lived through all of history, that arc of justice that Rabbi Bernstein was mentioning, where basically moral philosophers throughout the ages have been trying to figure out how do we define what is right and wrong. And now we've brought ourselves to this world of postmodernism, where we are told there is no right and wrong. There's only narratives. You can decide for yourself. Not only cultural relativism, but subjective relativism. Nobody knows. And that's what we're celebrating today, is we're celebrating that there was a creation, that there is a creator, and that the challenge is to put back the fruit. The challenge is to stop saying, yeah, we know what's right and wrong. No, the challenge is to say God knows what's right and wrong. By doing that, we will bring our world back to that paradise that we left. Just as soon as we can eat from the fruits according to the commandments. Rav Hirsch says that we stand before the challenge of the tree of knowledge of good and evil every day. And it's up to us to put the fruit back and to listen to the moral guidance of the Creator himself. In so doing, we will bring that arch of justice back to its final goal and live in the paradise that God created this world for. Chag Ha'ilan Sameach.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Navon, who I didn't mention before, was on staff at Livnot years ago. Thank you so much for giving us a map on how to get back to the garden.
Thank you very much.
It's my honor now to welcome Rabbi Mark Miller, who attended the T37 program of Livnot in 1992 after noticing a flyer while waiting in the Haifa Kibbutz Ulpan office. Soon after, he started working for the Jewish community as a summer camp director in Colorado and then in California. And it was in LA that he met his wife, another past Rebbe, Rachel Ann Barman Miller, at a Shabbat dinner for alumni. Mark was ordained as a rabbi at the Reform Movement Seminary, HUCJIR, in 2007, after which he spent 7 years as a rabbi at Congregation Beth Israel in Houston, and finally being named senior rabbi of Temple Beth El in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Thank you so much for joining us, Rabbi Mark. Bevakasha.
Thank you so much, Michael, and shalom, friends. Even though I only know a handful of people on the screen, I feel like I am surrounded by friends because of this Livnot community, and just have to say that I feel so personally indebted to you, Michael, and to Aharon. I know we aren't seeing your face right now, Aharon, but this was a life-changing journey for me, and I know so many of others that are here. So thank you for that. And I'm so glad to be here on this particular occasion. I do love Tu Bishvat. Want to offer Shkoyach to Michael and Moise for just beautiful teachings that I will probably be stealing from, certainly B'Shem Amro, but thank you both for offering those. And what I wanted to briefly touch on today is the Seder for Tu Bishvat. And I do see in front of Michael lots of stuff on the table there, and I have a feeling we're going to hear about that in a few minutes. But one piece of the Tu B'Shvat Seder is that it was organized around 4 cups of wine, which I know, of course, is familiar from some other holiday. But one of the differences is that these 4 cups of wine are meant to all be different, as opposed to at Pesach, when we have 4 cups of wine that are basically the same. So the first cup of wine in the Tu B'Shvat Seder is white wine representing winter. The second cup of wine is white with a little bit of red, sort of pink wine, if you will, representing spring. The third cup is red wine with a little bit of white in it, kind of a dark, maybe light red wine for summer. And the fourth cup of wine is red, representing fall. It's beautiful imagery, I think, and I love the symbolic nature of moving along the continuum from white to red, from season to season, the connection to Israel through the 7 species, and in particular, for this moment, pomegranates. I happen to have here a bottle of pomegranate wine for the occasion. But as happens a lot, I think, in Jewish life, there sometimes can be a big difference between the symbolic nature of what we're talking about and what happens in the real world. So in this case, what actually happens between cup 2 and cup 3? So allow me to demonstrate briefly. Begin with a little white wine. This one happens to be a little sparkling because I thought the effect would be nice. But here's our first cup of wine representing winter. If we take this and add just a little bit of the red wine, we've got a nice light pink wine. So there's our second cup of wine representing spring. For the fourth cup, allow me to skip for a moment, just red wine. So here we go. And you see the nice deep red color of the fourth cup of wine. What happens now, though, when we, for the third cup, are supposed to have a little bit of white wine in the red wine? Look carefully. That was more than a few drops. Can anybody tell the difference? I can't. White wine into this deep red wine makes zero difference to my eyes, which leads us to a little bit of a problem, I think. If there appears to be no difference, why would we have this ritual when you can't see it? And here, with this, really the difference, I suppose, between this second cup of wine and this third cup of wine, we have one of the subtle, but I think brilliant Jewish insights into humanity, into life on earth, and our desires to be God's partner in the ongoing project of perfecting this beautiful creation. For many people, I think it's fair to say that nature represents the best of religious identity. Put another way, we can't see God, we can't hear God or taste or touch or smell God, at least not directly. And that makes it very hard on us. It is hard sometimes to have a relationship with God when we can't, with our senses, directly appreciate God. But climb a mountain or witness a sunset or stand in front of a vast ocean, those are the moments when, for a lot of us, our senses tingle a little bit and we feel this overwhelming godly presence. This is something that I absolutely learned from Michael during many moments out in nature. But God isn't supposed to be that easy for us. God doesn't just happen to us, and we don't just stumble upon God when we're not paying attention. We have to seek out God. We have to struggle with God, and we have to create space for God in our lives. So as opposed to perhaps the ease of nature where you really do feel it, when I raise this particular cup of wine, this third cup of wine in our Tu B'Shvat Seder, the one that is supposed to be different from the others, but which doesn't appear to me to be different, it is up to me, just as it is up to all of us, I think, to see the beauty and the mystery and maybe the miracle, not with our eyes, but with our hearts. So it is with a full heart that I say on behalf of all of us, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. And l'chaim to all of us at Livnot.
L'chaim, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rabbi Mark. I would lift a glass of wine with you, but I got to drive back to the Golan. So anyway, thank you for your hands-on words, which was also very visual. At this point, we would like to have a musical interview, thanks to our two musicians, Daniel Rosilio and Yedidia Eliyahu. And they will be performing with some very special instruments, a song that many of you have sung on Shabbat at Livnot, while you have or have not been banging on the tables, Shirat Asabim, which was written by Rabbi Nachman of Breslau, and the music is by the Israeli songwriter Naomi Shemer. Bevakasha.
השיר הבא, המקדש ועל העוקץ, מילים ולחן של נעמי שמר. על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר ועל העתיד. Sure.
תודה רבה, דניאל אוסידיו וידידיה אליהו. Thank you so much. The song is Haradvash Varaokit, which is about the honey and also about the stinger. We heard from all of our speakers about the sweet parts and the tough parts of life. And we've talked, but now we have to, we've talked the talk, but now it's time to walk the walk. What can we do for our planet Earth? And for that, we are asking Sarah to come join us. Originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Sarah studied business in college and worked in the field for 4 years before backpacking through Asia and coming to Livnot. Now she lives in Sfat and teaches people about zero waste living and environmental consciousness. And she's very humble, so I'll just add she's also a published author and was a chevra here on the Livnot program. Sarah, b'vakasha.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I want to share a little bit about the ways that we can apply what we're talking about and what we're learning in a practical way. I think a lot of Judaism is so much about bringing consciousness to our relationship with each other, with Hashem, with ourselves, and with the world. And so what I want to share a little bit about is the mitzvah of trees. So this is a mitzvah that we learn about from the trees. So it's very relevant to Tu B'Shvat. And this mitzvah talks about not cutting down fruit trees in time of war, but it's more commonly known as the mitzvah of not wasting. And so this mitzvah is a really practical way that we can think about how we might become more conscious of our relationship to trees and to the earth. So for the last roughly 4 years, I've been living a zero waste lifestyle. Okay, this is better. For the last 4 years or so, I've been living what's called a zero waste lifestyle. So after backpacking in Asia and seeing a lot of the environmental degradation that was happening around the world, I realized that there was something that I wanted to change in my life in the way that I think about the environment and how I show up in respect to trees and the earth and the ocean. So I stumbled across this movement and I started changing my habits and becoming more conscious of my waste. And for the last 4 years, I produced almost no waste in my life. And I share this because it's a real possibility. I never thought that 5 years ago I would be living this way, but it's possible for all of us to change our habits and to become more conscious of how we interact with the earth. So I want to share a few really practical things we can do, especially around Tu B'Shvat. So hopefully we're all going to have an awesome Tu B'Shvat Seder with a lot of yummy fruits. And one of the really practical things that we can do is make sure that we are composting. So composting is a great way to return the fruit of the earth, the peels, the pores, all the pieces that we can't eat back to the earth so that they can continue to nourish future growth. So when I teach people about zero waste living, when I talk to them about environmental consciousness, it's always the first tip I give. If we all started composting, we would reduce about 25 to 30% of our trash. So that's a really practical way that we can think about applying what we're learning and this consciousness around trees and the earth to our lives. A really easy tip that I usually give people is just making sure that we bring reusable bags to the grocery store. So not only reusable bags for carrying all of the groceries that we buy, but commonly we'll go to the store and take an individual plastic bag for each item of produce that we take. And if we just bring a few bags with us, we can avoid that waste that usually ends up in the trash. I know from my experience, I think all of us have that big bag of plastic bags sitting somewhere in our house thinking we're going to use it eventually. But there's a really easy way that we can avoid that. And the wonderful thing about this as well is, like in Spot here, when I go buy produce and I bring my reusable bag, it creates awareness to everyone around me about environmental consciousness and making sure that we're treating the planet with kindness. So those are a couple of really practical things that we can do to respect the trees, respect the earth, what we can learn from the trees especially. So like Mikhail said, I actually recently published a book. It's called the Zero Waste Workbook. So if you're interested in learning more about zero waste living, I definitely recommend you check it out. Thank you everyone and happy Tu B'Shvat.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I didn't mention the name, Sarah Kulisevich. But I pronounced that right. Thank you so much for the practical tips. Because as we know, you can just end with words, but we also want to use our hands to celebrate Tu B'Shvat, and not just our stomachs. So thank you so much. As we come close to the conclusion, we have with us, of course, Yifat, everyone is familiar with. What does Tu B'Shvat mean to you? Would you like to tell us?
So I'm going to share this nice idea that I heard, where humans are being compared. So we all know that we are compared towards trees, right? It's so that humans are in many levels are like trees. So I heard this idea that a person is actually like an upside down tree. Since our roots are rooted.
They ask you to speak into the microphone.
Into the microphone, okay, like this, better. So a human is like an upside down tree. where a regular tree is taking its nourishment from the earth. As humans, we are taking our nourishment and our power from Shamayim, from the sky, from the heavens. So if to expand just a little bit more, like Kabbalistically speaking, about this idea. So we all started as souls, right? Before ever embodied this, right, suit that we're all wearing. We were all just souls blissing off God's light somewhere, right? And that was pretty awesome, right? I'm sure that was very pleasurable. So what was lacking, right? Why would we ever come down to this very, very problematic situation, also known as planet Earth? So when we were up there, there was no way for us to be fruitful, right? We were just receiving this light, but then that's it. And the idea of creating human beings is allowing us to manifest into reality and to be fruitful. So from Shamayim, we kind of like the Hageza, the trunk kind of like came down, and here we are here now branching outside of ourselves and even bringing fruit into the world in all these beautiful ways. So I think how can this idea give us strength? We all go through this world, and often we are faced with a lot of things that make us feel like very much like not at home in this world, right? We come across faults and cruelty and loneliness and pain and human suffering. And sometimes we go through periods of time where it really seems like it's like, what am I even doing here, right? Like there's something about our soul that is yearning to what it knows as home, which is harmony and peace and love and unity, right? And being here in this world that is not only like that is sometimes very, very hard. So what can give us the stability and the strength to go through this world successfully and be more like healers and not like more sick people, right? That just can't deal with the darkness of this reality. So maybe if to give an example of, everybody probably came across a Chabad house in their lives, right? They're known to go everywhere and to be a place that offers Jewish friendship and experience to everybody. And these people are raising their kids, and I'm sure they really want to raise their kids strictly Chabad, but here they are, like literally all over the world, being faced with very, very different mentalities. But the kids all grew up Chabad, right? Like somehow they're not being influenced, right? So how do they do it? And I think their secret is from a very, very young age, they teach their children, you're not from here. You're not from here. You're on a mission, right? And since the kids know I'm not from here, I have nothing to do with all of this. I'm on a mission, right? It gives them this centeredness. So according to this idea where a human is an upside down tree, where we're rooted elsewhere, where in a reality, in a different dimension, where there's all that harmony and unity and love, wherever we're faced in this world with anything that is not like that, one thing we can tell ourselves is, wait a second, I'm not from here, right? I'm not from here, I'm on a mission. And my mission is to bring that harmony from that dimension that it used to be floating out to this broken world. And I'm a healer. I'm not from here. I have nothing to do with all of this balagan, right? So maybe this could be just like a way of kind of like safely walking down this earth and kind of like a tree being very, very rooted in the place where we came from can just really give us strength to be godly creatures and to bring here what we want to bring into the world.
תודה רבה, יפעת. I wanted to end it all with a story because you gotta tell a story. The Tu B'Shvat Seder. Very quickly, I was about 16. I came to Israel on a program and I worked in a date farm on a kibbutz. And in the afternoon, the kids, when they came back from school to teach them how to work, they'd come and work also. So in the afternoon, there was a kid, he must have been about 10, about half my size. And we used a hydraulic ladder to get down from the tree. But he grabbed onto the branches, came down, and about 3 meters from the bottom, he just jumped. I couldn't believe this kid was doing this. These were really tall trees. And I came down on the hydraulic ladder, and I said, "Are you some kind of a monkey? How did you even do that?" He said, "I am not a monkey. I am a human. And a human is like a tree." Just like Yifat said, "Ki ha'adam etz hasadeh." He said, "Look at this palm tree. It's just like a human. It has a head. If you cut off the head of the palm tree as opposed to all other trees, the tree dies. It has a trunk, like you said, which is the body. It has fruit. And it's even called a palm tree because its hands are out as if it's trying to reach up to heaven." And I thought to myself, this kid is 10. He's like a spiritual giant. I want to live in a place where kids are spiritual giants when they're 10, even though they act like monkeys. And it had a very big influence on me. And I have to say, there's something in the air here or in the dates that kind of helps one kind of reach towards the sky. I want to thank all of our people who came from afar and gave up their precious Sunday time, wherever they may be, to celebrate Livnot's annual Tu B'Shvat Seder. And we invite you all to not make this just virtual, but to come and join us in Tzfat. Wherever you are, hopefully you're also having a Tu B'Shvat Seder. But once in a while, to recharge your batteries, come to Tzfat. We'll have a Seder here, even in the middle of the summer. We will have a Tu B'Shvat Seder. Come back and eat the fruit of the land of Israel in the land of Israel. You all have a wonderful Tu B'Shvat, celebrated with gusto. So Daraba also to the Livnot staff, especially Noah and Shai, who made this all possible. And we are with you wherever you are. Toda, Erev Tov.
And so then we had.
Hi, can I say something?
Of course.
Okay. First of all, it's great to see all of you. And once again, I apologize that I can't be joining. I just want to say that we'd like to try to create something where maybe once a month we can have something like this with guest speakers, and maybe we'll learn how to get some participation from the Chevre. Anyways, we'd like to hear your reactions about that. For those that are still doing the Tu B'Shvat Seder, I want to suggest that you look at also last year where we had a 2-hour Zoom, which was beautiful and amazing insights into life, and with top staff from Livnot from the past. So we'd like to hear your ideas, and it's great to see you guys, especially you guys from program number 3 and program number 7 and 19, and all kinds of things out there. Okay, have a Chag Sameach.
Toda Rabba. Bye-bye.
Refuah Shlema, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, Shavua Tov.
Chag Sameach, thank you so much. Love you.
Chag Sameach, thank you so much.
Chag Sameach, Shavua Tov.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
I'd like to hear where everybody is.
Tu B'Shvat Sameach. We're in Ma'alot, Israel.
Wow.
We're in snowy Atlanta.
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
I live in Efrat.
Hey, this is Michael Miller. I'm in Boulder.
Hello, I'm in Copenhagen.
Chag Sameach from Pardes Chana.
Chag Sameach from White Plains, New York, just north of the city.
It's an international Tu B'Shvat. World over.
Chag Sameach from Cleveland, Ohio.
All right.
Yaakov Kranitz. Should be all bench for a speedy Geula.
Amen, amen.
Amen.
Let's all get together at Tzfat soon.
Okay.
תודה רבה לכולם. Thank you everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Laila Tov.